Warm introduction and setting. The stage, under the cool glow of a hesitant morning light, a solitary figure walks toward the halls of a high school that feels more like a battlefield than a place of learning. The day begins with an unexpected jolt, a icy, forceful collision with a row of lockers that sends a surge of pain and shock racing through his body. It's a moment that sets the tone for the rest of the day, where every heartbeat echoes with vulnerability and an unspoken promise of inner battles yet to be fought. As he steadies himself, his mind races with a blend of indignation and resignation. The whispers of ridicule from bullies mix with his own unfiltered thoughts, painting a picture of a young soul caught between defiance and despair. His reality is not merely about physical hurt. It is a vivid tapestry of emotional scars, marked by years of isolation and relentless torment. Each step he takes down the cold, unforgiving hallway is weighted by memories of past embarrassments and the piercing sting of words that cut deeper than any physical blow. Yet, amidst the chaos of cruelty, there is a glimmer, a mysterious pull towards a destiny that he cannot yet comprehend. The day is filled with uncertainty, and the faint sound of footsteps and murmured voices suggest that fate may have something entirely unexpected in store. This isn't just another day of enduring harsh taunts or dodging the blows of those who seem intent on breaking him. It's the opening chapter of a journey that will soon blur the lines between human fragility and something far more potent, far more primal. The scene shifts from the unforgiving corridors of his school to the claustrophobic confines of his own home. A turbulent family dynamic looms over him like a storm cloud, where love is intermingled with hurtful words and cold silences. At home, every conversation is a minefield. The echoes of his mother's worried tone and his father's harsh, belittling remarks are not just background noise. They are the heavy chains that bind him to a reality where safety feels like a myth. Yet, even in this isolation, a quiet ember of hope flickers. A decision has been made. A sudden, desperate move toward a new beginning in Fall Haven. A place promising safety and, perhaps, an escape from the relentless cycle of abuse. The long, desolate drive to a new home becomes a journey into the heart of solitude. As the car cruises along endless highways, under a sky that alternates between brooding gray and tentative blue, every mile deepens his introspection. The hum of the radio offers little solace, merely underscoring the vast emptiness of the road ahead. The isolation of the journey mirrors the loneliness within, a profound solitude that has both shaped him and left him yearning for connection. In the quiet moments of that 8-hour drive, his thoughts drift to what might await him in a new town, a place that promises anonymity yet holds the possibility of a profound, transformative encounter. Arriving at a sprawling 2-story house that seems almost too grand for a heart so burdened, he steps into a world that is at once inviting and intimidating. The house, with its large backyard that opens onto a dense, whispering forest, beckons him with secrets and untold stories. The forest, dark and mysterious, stands as a silent guardian of hidden wonders and whispered legends. Every rustle of the wind, every flicker of light through the tree canopy, carries with it a hint of something magical, a promise of a life where the mundane might suddenly give way to the extraordinary. Inside, the stillness of the new home is a stark contrast to the chaos of his past. The rooms are bathed in soft, natural light, and a large window overlooking the forest offers him a sanctuary of thought and reflection. Here, in this moment of fragile calm, he allows himself to dream. His heart, battered by years of relentless cruelty, now flutters with the possibility of a future where he is more than the sum of his scars. It is a future filled with hidden promises, a destiny intertwined with love, mystery, and the hope of finding his missing piece. This is the beginning of a story that defies the ordinary. It is a narrative that unfolds with a measured cadence, a blend of gentle introspection, heart-pounding suspense, and an undercurrent of romance that lingers like a tender melody. As he gazes out the window, The forest's secrets seemed to murmur, urging him to embrace the unknown, to step beyond the shadows of his past, and to dare to hope for something greater. In this quiet moment of isolation, his inner turmoil and fragile dreams converge, setting the stage for a journey that will challenge everything he thought he knew about love, destiny, and the true meaning of family. The stage is set. A young soul stands at the precipice of a profound transformation, where every heartbeat is a promise of resilience and every whisper of the wind hints at the extraordinary. The journey ahead is shrouded in mystery, tension, and the tantalizing possibility of a destiny written in the stars. A destiny where love might be the key to unlocking a future brighter than any he has ever known. The escalation of bullying and first confrontation. In the harsh fluorescent glare of the school corridor, the bitter taste of humiliation lingers long after the lockers have clanged shut. Our protagonist, still reeling from the earlier shock, braces himself against the cold metal. The day had barely begun, yet already the scars, both visible and hidden, were being added. As he trudges along, the echo of snickers and sneers follows him like a relentless shadow. Tyler, the ringleader of this torment, wastes no time in making his presence felt. His eyes narrow into slits of pure malice as he steps into view, his sneer almost a physical force. "Hey, look here!" Tyler bellows, his voice slicing through the ambient chatter. "Here's the guy who embarrassed me in class." His words hit like a blow, and before our protagonist can muster a defense, the corridor transforms into a chaotic arena. Tyler charges with a surprising ferocity, colliding into our protagonists, back with a force that sends a jolt of pain racing through every nerve. The impact is swift, brutal. The world tilts, and for a fleeting moment, time seems to freeze. Amid the cacophony, our protagonist hears his own voice, raw and unfiltered. "All I did was answer correctly, Tyler. How about next time you actually get it right?" The words spill out, unthinking yet honest, a testament to a heart that refuses to filter even its own defiance. But defiance, as raw and unbridled as it is, comes at a cost. Tyler's face contorts in rage, his hand slamming against the locker, with a resounding crack that mirrors the shattering of his fragile ego. The sound reverberates down the hallways, and with every violent gesture, the air grows heavier. Friends and onlookers exchange uneasy glances, their silence a silent admission of the cruelty unfolding before them. In that moment, vulnerability and defiance entwine within our protagonist. He feels both the sting of physical blows and the deeper, more persistent ache of humiliation. His thoughts race. Is it my fault I speak too honestly? Is my unfiltered nature the reason I continue to be the target of their cruelty? Amid these internal questions, a painful reality sets in. There is no escape from this relentless barrage. The beating escalates as Tyler's cronies, emboldened by his aggression, join in. Their coordinated onslaught reduces the corridor to a blur of fists and cruel laughter. Every hit, every kick, punctuates the bitter rhythm of cruelty, and our protagonist finds himself pinned to the unforgiving floor. The taste of blood, sharp, metallic, floods his senses as he grapples with the duality of his inner strength and the overwhelming vulnerability of his physical state. Just when the world seems to be closing in on him, a firm, commanding voice slices through the chaos. "Enough." Mr. Phillips, a teacher known for his unwavering sense of justice, appears at the scene like a beacon in the dark. With a swift, decisive motion, he intervenes, his presence a sudden barrier between the bully and the beaten. Tyler's aggression falters as Mr. Phillips commands, "Tyler, that's enough. Leave him alone now." The corridor falls into an uneasy silence, as the bullies, now caught off guard, disperse under the weight of authority. In that brief, almost surreal moment, the balance of power shifts. Our protagonist, though still battered and trembling, is lifted from the cold, hard floor by the steady hands of Mr. Phillips. The teacher's intervention is both a physical rescue and an emotional salve, a reminder that amidst the cruelty, there exists a glimmer of protection and dignity. As Mr. Phillips guides him toward the principal's office, every step feels weighted by a mix of relief and lingering pain. The quiet murmur of concern in the teacher's voice is a contrast to the earlier cacophony of insults and blows. Yet, even as he is taken away from the immediate danger, our protagonist's mind is a storm of thoughts. Will this intervention change anything? Will the scars, both seen and unseen, ever truly fade? In the sterile office of the principal, he is called in separately, and every word he utters is laced with the raw honesty that had both been his curse and his shield. He recounts the relentless bullying, the physical assault, and the callous dismissal by those who should have been his protectors. His voice wavers between defiance and despair, revealing the deep chasm of pain and resilience that defines him. The confrontation with Mr. Phillips and the subsequent meeting with the principal leave him with more questions than answers. As he sits in the quiet after the storm of violence, the air seems to thicken with an ominous promise. The events of today are only the beginning. What will be the ripple effect of this confrontation? The uncertainty lingers, a subtle but persistent reminder that the battleground of high school is fraught with deeper, more dangerous currents. As he steps back into the hallway, still nursing his wounds, he wonders if this moment of intervention is a turning point or merely a brief respite before the next storm. With his heart still pounding in defiance and vulnerability, he braces himself for what may come next, knowing that every step forward is a battle in a war that has only just begun. The question remains, in a world where cruelty lurks in every shadow, can a single act of courage illuminate a path toward change? Or will the darkness return with a vengeance? Family turmoil and the decision to move. After the painful confrontation at school, the world outside continued its indifferent rhythm. But at home, the atmosphere was thick with unresolved tension. The familiar creaks of the old house, once a sanctuary, now echoed with cold silence and the weight of unspoken words. Upon returning, our protagonist was met with a storm of conflicting emotions. His heart, already bruised from the day's physical and emotional onslaught, was further wounded by the undercurrent of family turmoil waiting behind closed doors. Inside, the living room was dimly lit, shadows stretching long across worn furniture that had witnessed too many moments of grief and anger. His mother's face, usually the one that tried to hide the strain of unending responsibility, was etched with worry. As soon as she saw him, her eyes betrayed the mix of regret and concern, a silent admission of a love that was as conditional as it was desperate. The air grew heavy as she gently questioned him about the call she had received from the school. "Did they tell you what happened today?" she asked, her tone laced with both fear and a resigned determination to protect him, however imperfectly. His voice, still raw from the earlier confrontation, faltered as he tried to explain the details of the bullying and the humiliating beatings. Each word felt like it was dredged up from deep within, exposing wounds that had been kept hidden for far too long. Yet, his honesty was met not with the comforting embrace he craved, but with a hurried decision that cut him deeply. His mother, with a pained yet resolute expression, declared that the situation at school was untenable. "If this continues, we cannot stay here," she stated firmly, her words slicing through his already fragile sense of belonging. The conversation that followed was a tangled web of sorrow and tough pragmatism. His mother's voice was soft but unyielding as she explained that an opportunity had arisen, a chance to move to Fall Haven, a town in South Carolina that promised a fresh start and a safer environment. In her eyes shone the hope of leaving. Behind the cycle of relentless bullying, the suffocating coldness of family conflict, and the bitter memories that clung to every corner of their current home. Yet, for him, the thought of leaving was bittersweet. Every creak in the floorboard, every familiar scent, carried the ghost of his past, a past he was reluctant to erase entirely. He listened silently as she laid out the plan. The move would be swift, within a week, And although it meant abandoning a life he had known, friends who, despite the pain, were part of his identity, it also meant a chance to start over. A spark of cautious curiosity began to flicker inside him, mingled with the fear of the unknown. What if Fall Haven is nothing like I imagine? What if I lose all that I have ever known? He wondered, the question hanging in the air like a fragile promise of change that could be either a salvation or another kind of isolation. The prospect of a new town stirred conflicting emotions. On one hand, there was the relief of escaping an environment that had only delivered sorrow, a place where every day was marred by cruelty and neglect. On the other, the thought of leaving, behind his old friends, a bittersweet tapestry of memories, laughter, and even the shared pain of bullying, filled him with a sense of loss. Those familiar faces, even if they sometimes compounded his misery, were threads woven into the fabric of his identity. Their absence would create a void that no new beginning could easily fill. Amid the turmoil, his inner voice battled between resignation and the faint hope of renewal. The decision to move was not a choice born out of mere escape, but rather a desperate bid for safety, a chance to protect himself from a world that seemed determined to crush him. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "We need to go somewhere you will be safe." In that moment, the concept of safety became more than just a fleeting desire. It transformed into a beacon, guiding him through the darkness of his present struggles. As the reality of the move sank in, he found himself standing at a crossroads, one path leading deeper into the familiar pain of his current life, and the other veering into the uncharted territory of Fall Haven. The promise of a new beginning shimmered in his thoughts like a distant light, a hope that this new town might hold the solace his weary heart longed for. Yet, even as the prospect of change offered a glimmer of optimism, it was tempered by the haunting uncertainty of what he would leave behind and what he might find in the future. In that quiet, tension-filled moment, the decision to move was etched into his soul, a decision to risk the comfort of familiarity in exchange for the chance at a life free from cruelty and pain. The memories of past battles, the echoes of harsh words, and the relentless bullying were all receding into the background, making space for a fragile new hope. And so, with a heavy heart and a tentative spirit, he accepted his mother's plan, even as his mind buzzed with questions and his heart trembled with the weight of both loss and potential. Will this move bring the solace he desperately seeks? The long road to Fall Haven, a journey of uncertainty. The journey to Fall Haven stretched out like an endless ribbon of asphalt, winding through a landscape that blurred into shades of gray and blue. For 8 long hours the car rolled steadily along the open highway, each mile marked by the solitary hum of tires on pavement and the low murmur of the radio. Seated alone in the driver's seat, our protagonist felt the weight of isolation settle around him, a quiet companion that whispered of both loss and possibility. As the minutes melded into hours, the radio played a constant, indifferent tune, an ever-present soundtrack to his thoughts. The songs, though cheerful on the surface, did little to mask the underlying melancholy that clung to him like a second skin. Each note and lyric seemed to echo the uncertainty within, stirring memories of a life that was slowly slipping away and hinting at a future that was as elusive as it was promising. He switched channels a few times, seeking solace in familiar voices and soothing melodies, yet nothing could fully quiet the storm of introspection raging inside. At times, his mind wandered to the past, the sting of taunts, the pain of physical blows, the bitter echoes of a home filled with harsh words and shattered dreams. The memories came unbidden, as vivid as the scenery outside the window. The receding image of his school corridors, the empty faces of classmates, and the ghost of his father's disapproving glare. With each passing mile, these recollections mingled with a fragile hope, a tentative belief that somewhere ahead lay a fresh start, a place where safety and acceptance might replace the relentless cruelty of his old life. The car's interior, dimly lit by the gentle glow of the dashboard, became a cocoon of introspection. He found himself lost in thought, pondering the complexities of leaving behind the familiar, even as he craved to escape its painful grip. It was a bittersweet paradox. The decision to move was born out of necessity, yet it required abandoning the only world he had ever known. In the solitude of the journey, he wrestled with the conflicting emotions of loneliness and anticipation, a heart torn between the grief of goodbye and the tentative excitement of a new beginning. Every now and then, he would catch a glimpse of the passing landscape, a fleeting view of sprawling fields, isolated gas stations, and clusters of trees standing as silent sentinels along the roadside. These brief, transient images stirred a sense of wonder in him. He wondered if these natural backdrops were merely indifferent scenery, or if they held secrets of their own, silently witnessing the passage of time and the unfolding of destinies. The rhythmic pulse of the engine and the soft cadence of the radio blended with his inner monologue, creating a meditative rhythm that both soothed and unsettled him. There were moments when the quiet of the car seemed almost oppressive, each silence a reminder of the emptiness that could easily swallow him whole. Yet, amid that quiet, a small flame of hope flickered, a hope that Fall Haven, with all its unknowns, might offer the sanctuary he so desperately needed. He envisioned a town where perhaps the harshness of his past would be replaced by warmth, where new friendships could bloom, and the pain of bullying might finally be a distant memory. Still, every surge of hope was tempered by the reality of the long, lonely road and the uncertainty of what awaited him at the journey's end. The drive was not merely a passage of physical distance, but a metaphor for his inner transformation. As the landscape slowly shifted from the drab hues of a troubled past to the promise of something different, his mind filled with questions. What kind of life awaited him in Fall Haven? Would the new town offer the solace and acceptance that had long eluded him, or would it be another chapter of struggle and solitude? Each question was a silent plea for reassurance, a desperate hope for a change that could mend a fractured spirit. As dusk began to settle, the sky turned a deep indigo, dotted with the first tentative stars of the evening. The car's headlights cut through the gathering darkness, illuminating patches of the road that seemed to lead into an even deeper mystery. With every mile, the promise of the unknown grew stronger, a magnetic pull towards a destination that was as enigmatic as it was inevitable. The vast expanse of the approaching night mirrored the vastness of his own uncertainty, leaving him both anxious and strangely excited about what lay ahead. In that profound moment, as the radio's soft tunes faded into the background and his thoughts became bolder, he realized that the road to Fall Haven was not just about reaching a new address. It was a journey into the heart of uncertainty, a test of his resilience and hope. And as the outline of a sprawling, unfamiliar town began to materialize in the distance, one question echoed in his mind, lingering like a whisper in the darkness. Will this move bring the solace he desperately seeks? First impressions, a new home and its enigmatic surroundings. At last, the car slows to a stop in front of a stately, two-story house that seems to rise from a dream. The building, with its weathered brick facade and broad, welcoming porch, exudes a timeless charm, a promise of new beginnings intermingled with echoes of forgotten stories. As he steps out onto the cool, dewy grass, the crisp air wraps around him like a soft embrace, momentarily easing the raw pain of the past. His gaze is drawn immediately to the backyard, an expansive green space that stretches out to meet the edge of an immense, ancient forest. The trees stand tall and silent, their dark silhouettes contrasting sharply with the gentle light of dusk. In this vast, unspoiled wilderness, the forest appears both inviting and inscrutable, as if guarding secrets too old and profound for ordinary eyes. The house, with its generous plot of land, seems to have been built not only to shelter its inhabitants, but to serve as a gateway to this mysterious natural realm. As he walks slowly around the perimeter of the house, every step is accompanied by a mix of relief and a subtle undercurrent of foreboding. The familiar noises of the past, the harsh voices of bullies, the stinging echoes of family conflict, are replaced by the serene rustle of leaves and the distant call of a night bird. Yet, even in the stillness, his mind remains alert to the possibility of hidden dangers. The peacefulness of the setting is a double-edged sword. It promises solace, but also whispers of mysteries that might disrupt the fragile calm he so desperately craves. The architecture of the house speaks of a life once lived with care and intent. Large windows invite the outside in, casting intricate patterns of light across polished wooden floors. Each room, though silent and still, seems to hum with the latent energy of past laughter and tears, a testament to both joy and sorrow. His footsteps echo softly in the entryway as he steps inside, and the subtle scent of old wood and fresh earth fills his senses, grounding him in the present moment. He drifts from room to room, absorbing every detail with a quiet intensity. In the upstairs corridor, he pauses by a window that frames a perfect view of the forest. The scene beyond the glass is breathtaking. The deep greens of the treetops merge with the murmur of twilight, while the forest floor remains shrouded in a gentle, mystic fog. It is here, in this suspended moment, that his heart is filled with both wonder and apprehension. There is a promise of serenity in the sight, yet also an intangible tension, a sense that something extraordinary and perhaps unpredictable lies within those ancient woods. Stepping back into the backyard, he wanders along the edge where manicured lawns give way to the wild forest. The boundary between cultivated order and untamed nature is not sharply defined. Instead, it is a gradual blending, as if the house itself has grown from the earth, nurtured by the same energy that fuels the forest. The silence of the open space is profound, filled with the unspoken potential of what may lie hidden beneath the canopy. The interplay of light and shadow dances across the ground as the sun dips lower, and every rustle of the wind seems to hint at stories waiting to be told. He finds a comfortable spot beneath a large oak tree, its sturdy branches offering a natural shelter from the encroaching evening chill. Settling there for a moment, he allows his thoughts to drift freely. The new home, with all its quiet majesty, represents a rare opportunity to rebuild, a sanctuary where he might finally heal and grow. Yet, even as relief washes over him, the whisper of the forest's unknown beckons, inviting him to explore deeper than the safety of the familiar porch and tidy garden. In this moment of still reflection, the balance between hope and uncertainty becomes palpable. The house stands as a symbol of renewal, its solid structure a promise of stability in a life that had long been marred by turmoil. But the forest beyond its borders, with its dark ancient majesty, holds an allure that is both enchanting and intimidating. It is a reminder that while one can find refuge within walls, the world outside remains vast, unpredictable, and filled with both beauty and danger. The air is filled with a quiet challenge. Dare to venture into the unknown, to discover the secrets that the forest holds. His heart beats with a mix of trepidation and excitement as he contemplates the possibilities. The allure of mystery and the promise of healing converge at this threshold, leaving him with a lingering, poignant question that seems to echo in the rustling leaves. What hidden truths and untold stories does the forest conceal, and can it offer him the solace he so desperately seeks? Clash with authority. A tense. Homecoming. Stepping through the front door of his new home, the protagonist is immediately thrust back into the oppressive confines of family expectations and bitter control. The once promising sanctuary of AI. Fresh Start now feels like another battlefield, one where the enemy wears the familiar guise of a parent whose words cut deeper than any physical blow. His father stands in the dim light of the entry hall, a stern silhouette framed by the muted glow of the overhead lamp. The air is thick with unspoken disapproval and cold commands. "Did you pick a room?" his father demands abruptly, his tone clipped and void of any warmth. There is no welcome here, only an instant reminder of the harshness that has defined his home life for so long. With a heavy heart, he nods, trying to muster a response that doesn't betray the fragile hope he still clings to. His father's gaze is unyielding, and every word that follows is a verbal assault, laden with criticism and dismissiveness. "While your mother and I are on business trips, you better keep this house spotless," his father commands, his voice rising with each syllable as if each order is a decree meant to remind him of his worthlessness. "Your careless nature won't earn you any friends here. Behave, or don't expect anything nice from anyone." The harshness of these words is like a chokehold, pressing him into submission while stirring a deep-seated desire for escape. Inside, the protagonist battles with his inner self. Part of him yearns for the freedom to breathe, to speak his mind and live authentically without the constant sting of belittlement. Yet, each curt instruction, each sneer of disappointment, reinforces the oppressive environment he has endured for years. His mind races with questions. Is this really the place where I am meant to build a future? Can I ever break free from these suffocating expectations? The air feels stifling, and every corner of the house seems to echo with the past, trapping him in a cycle of familial criticism and unmet desires. He tries to focus on the possibility of a new beginning, but the weight of his father's words drags him back to a reality he desperately wants to escape. Every step he takes in the hallway feels like a slow, torturous march toward an inevitable confrontation with his own limitations, a daily reminder that the freedom he craves is being smothered by those who are supposed to nurture him. In the quiet moments that follow the barrage of harsh directives, the silence in the house becomes almost as loud as the outburst itself. He retreats to his room, a small, isolated space that has become his refuge from the clamor of family life. The walls, though unadorned and plain, offer a semblance of privacy where he can catch his breath and let his emotions surface. Here, in the solitude of his own making, the conflict within him grows louder. The oppressive air of his home is juxtaposed against the fierce yearning for independence, a desire to break away, to step into a world where his voice matters and his dreams are not dismissed with a curt "behave." Yet, even as he contemplates his inner rebellion, there is a part of him that feels a deep, inescapable bond to this home, a connection forged not out of love, but out of a shared history of struggle and survival. It is a bittersweet attachment, one that ties him to the painful memories of his past, even as he dreams of a future free from their shadows. The conflict is palpable, the need to honor what once was, even as he fights against the chains that hold him down. His father's voice echoes in his mind, a constant reminder of the stifling reality that he must confront every day. The harshness, the blunt commands, the absence of compassion, they all serve as a barrier to the liberation he so desperately seeks. And yet, within this storm of criticism and control, a quiet defiance begins to simmer. He resolves, in silent determination, that one day he will break free of these shackles. He will find the courage to reclaim his own voice and redefine his future. In the stillness of his room, after the echoes of the confrontation fade into a heavy, oppressive silence, a poignant pause settles over him. He sits there, eyes closed, as his thoughts churn. Is this home truly the end of the road, or merely a hurdle on my journey to something greater? The uncertainty hangs in the air, like a question mark, a silent, haunting inquiry that leaves him, and the audience, wondering what fate awaits him beyond these suffocating walls. Escape into solitude. Finding refuge in a quiet room. After the storm of harsh words and clashing authority, he finds himself seeking solace in a space that feels untouched by the relentless weight of his daily battles. With a quiet determination, he retreats upstairs, clutching a small pack of Oreos, a simple comfort in an otherwise turbulent world. The soft, familiar crunch of the cookie as he opens the packet is a reminder of fleeting moments of pleasure amid chaos. In this sanctuary of his own making, the room becomes a small island of reprieve, far removed from the suffocating environment below. Sitting on the edge of his unadorned bed, he places the Oreos on the nightstand, as if they were treasures from another world. The quiet room, bathed in the gentle glow of a single lamp, is a place where he can finally let his guard down Here, the echoes of his father's harsh commands and the piercing criticism from earlier vanish into a background, replaced by the steady rhythm of his own thoughts. It is in this small space that he begins to daydream, a delicate intermingling of hope, regret, and a burning desire for belonging. He drifts to the window, the glass offering a clear view of the night beyond. Outside, the world is cloaked in darkness. Yet the distant shimmer of streetlights and the soft rustle of leaves whisper promises of possibility. As he gazes out, the quiet solitude transforms into a canvas for his dreams. In his mind, the window becomes a portal to a different life. A life where the pain of isolation is replaced by warmth, where the scars that have marked his past slowly fade into mere shadows, and where every moment holds the promise of renewal. With each Oreo he nibbles, he finds himself reflecting on the many layers of his inner world. The sugary sweetness is a small, defiant act of self-care, a moment to savor, even if just for a few precious minutes. Yet, as the taste lingers on his tongue, so do the bittersweet memories of times when laughter was scarce and loneliness was a constant companion. Each crumb becomes a symbol of resilience, a small token of survival amid the tumult of his past. In the soft isolation of his room, he allows himself to confront the deeper emotional scars that have long remained hidden beneath layers of guarded smiles and curt responses. There is a heaviness in his heart, a longing for connection and understanding that is as profound as it is painful. The memories of bullying, of cruel words and isolating stares, seep into his thoughts, mingling with the present in a dance of shadow and light. These recollections are not merely memories of past wounds. They are a part of him, woven into the fabric of his being, urging him to find a place where he can truly belong. As he sits by the window, lost in introspection, his thoughts meander through the corridors of what could be. He envisions a life where acceptance replaces judgment, where his honest and unfiltered nature is celebrated rather than condemned. The room, though small and sparsely furnished, offers a blank slate, a temporary refuge that might someday give way to something greater. He imagines a future where each day unfolds with a gentle promise of hope, where even the smallest victories against adversity illuminate the path forward. In the gentle hum of the quiet room, the stark contrasts of his life, cruelty and tenderness, despair and hope, coexist. Every heartbeat is a silent testament to the battles fought, both externally and within himself. The solitude here is not merely an escape from the noise below, but a crucial space for healing, reflection, and the nurturing of a dream that has long been buried beneath the weight of suffering. Yet, even as the room cradles him in its calm embrace, the outside world with all its mysteries remains just beyond the window. The darkness is deep and infinite, hinting at the countless secrets that the night holds. The soft rustle of the leaves, the distant call of an unknown bird. Each sound is a subtle reminder that the world is vast, and his journey is only beginning. In this quiet, tender moment, he senses that perhaps this sanctuary, though temporary, is the spark of something transformative. A seed planted in the soil of his loneliness, ready to bloom into a future of change. And as he sits there, gazing into the enigmatic night, a thought lingers at the edge of his consciousness. A gentle, yet persistent question that seems to echo softly within the stillness of the room. Could this quiet moment spark a change? A glimpse into a parallel world. The spin-off connection. In the midst of his solitary reflections, a subtle ripple of excitement stirs within him, a whisper of a world that exists parallel to his own, a world that promises companionship and the possibility of a life less burdened by loneliness. He recalls the mention of saving my mate, a story that, although seemingly separate from his daily struggles, resonates deeply with him. This spin-off narrative, where a minor character named Alpha Calvin Reed makes an appearance, hints at a universe where fate and desire converge in ways both mysterious and magnetic. Alpha Calvin Reed is introduced not as the central hero, but as a compelling side note, a man who, with a single smile and a quiet strength, leaves an indelible mark on those around him. In the pages of Saving My Mate, his role is small, yet it carries an undeniable allure. He represents a tantalizing glimpse into a life where the search for a mate is more than a desperate need. It is a quest filled with challenges, surprises, and moments of unexpected tenderness. For our protagonist, who has long felt the sting of isolation and the weight of unspoken yearnings, this connection stirs hope. It is as if the universe has offered him a tantalizing preview of what might be, a life where loneliness is replaced by the promise of mutual care and understanding. In his current reality, every day is a careful navigation through shadows and harsh memories. The echoes of past hurt and the cold criticism of authority figures have left him guarded, hesitant to open up fully. His home, filled with the weight of oppressive family dynamics, has taught him to value moments of solitude as both a shield and a prison. Yet, the idea of a spin-off, a parallel story where the quest for love is fraught with its own adventures, breeds a sense of excitement that he cannot ignore. It is a gentle reminder that his life, too, might one day blossom into something beautifully unexpected. The mention of Saving My Mate comes to him like a distant murmur amid the silence of his room. It is a title that promises rescue and redemption, a narrative where even the smallest role can spark life-changing events. Calvin Reed, with his calm determination and subtle charisma, becomes a symbol of that possibility. Although he is portrayed as a secondary character in that story, his presence hints at a larger, more intricate world. A world where love, loyalty, and the complexities of identity are interwoven into every heartbeat. For our protagonist, this world is both a contrast to his own and a mirror of the dreams he has long kept hidden in the recesses of his heart. As he paces near the window, the image of Calvin Reed takes shape in his mind, not as an unreachable ideal, but as a real person whose brief appearances in the spin-off have left a lasting impression. Calvin's quiet confidence and his ability to carry himself with grace amid adversity offer a glimpse of the kind of mate our protagonist yearns for, a mate who is not only a protector, but also a kindred spirit. In the spin-off's narrative, Calvin's role may be small, but it serves as a beacon, a spark that ignites the hope that one day, perhaps, fate will bring their paths to cross in a way that transcends the boundaries of their current loneliness. There is an undeniable allure in the contrast between his solitary existence and the potential of a life where he finds that perfect match. The pages of Saving My Mate hint at a realm where love is not merely an escape from pain, but a journey filled with its own adventures, where every encounter is a step toward self-discovery and healing. It is as if the story whispers secrets about a universe where every loss and every scar might one day be transformed into a testament of resilience, a narrative where even the most minor character holds the key to unlocking a brighter, more fulfilling future. In this quiet moment of contemplation, the boundaries between his harsh reality and the enchanting possibility of a parallel world begin to blur. The soft glow of the lamp in his room casts long, mysterious shadows, echoing the subtle tension between despair and hope. His thoughts dance between the comfort of his solitude and the irresistible call of a love that seems just out of reach. Love that might be waiting in the wings, as hinted by the spin-off connection. The allure of Calvin Reed's brief yet impactful presence leaves him with a lingering sense of wonder. He imagines a future where the echoes of Saving My Mate are not just a distant story, but a living, breathing part of his own journey. A future where, instead of facing the world alone, he might one day share his triumphs and vulnerabilities with someone who truly understands him. And so, as the night deepens around him, his mind fills with a quiet, hopeful question, a gentle invitation to himself and to anyone who listens. What secrets might this spin-off reveal? Reflections on love and the quest for the mate. In the stillness of the early morning, When the last echoes of night begin to fade and the first rays of light cast a gentle glow on the horizon, Calvin finds himself alone with his thoughts. There is a haunting quality to these quiet moments, a time when the heart is laid bare and every emotion, raw and unfiltered, comes to the surface. It is in these moments that his soul speaks most clearly about a yearning that has shadowed him for as long as he can remember. The desperate quest for a mate. Calvin's inner world is a complex tapestry of memories and emotions, woven together by the threads of both joy and sorrow. He reflects on the countless times he has felt the chill of loneliness, even amidst the noise and chaos of everyday life. Each day, he carries a silent burden, the echo of past rejections, the stinging memory of friends lost to indifference, and the constant reminder that, despite his outward strength and calm demeanor, there's a deep part of him that remains unfulfilled. This loneliness is cyclical, a recurring rhythm in his life that repeats over and over, sometimes with such intensity that it seems to overwhelm every part of his being. He often wonders, in the quiet moments when the world has paused, and his heart beats a little slower, what it would feel like to truly be complete. What would it be like to find that one person who could understand the unspoken language of his soul, who could heal the invisible wounds that have long defined his existence? His thoughts wander to the possibility of connection, a bond so profound that it transcends the superficial, a relationship that could fill the emptiness that has been his constant companion. In his mind's eye, he sees a future where every shared glance, every whispered word, and every silent touch brings him closer to a sense of wholeness he has only dared to dream about. Calvin recalls moments from his past with a bittersweet clarity. There were times when he dared to hope, when a fleeting smile or a kind word from a stranger ignited a spark within him. But those moments were often short-lived, quickly swallowed by the pervasive shadow of isolation that seemed to follow him wherever he went. The pain of feeling incomplete, of not having someone to share his vulnerabilities with, is a wound that refuses to heal. It is a constant reminder of the imperfection of his existence, a gap that no amount of self-reliance or quiet contemplation can fill. He asks himself countless questions as he sits in the solitude of his room. Is it my destiny to wander this path of loneliness forever? Can a heart that has been scarred by so much pain ever learn to trust again? Each question is a quiet plea for reassurance, a desperate hope that somewhere, somehow, there is a way to mend what feels irreparably broken. And yet, even as these questions echo in his mind, there is a persistent, burning desire, a quiet determination that insists on the possibility of change, on the potential of love to transform even the deepest sorrows. In his reflective solitude, Calvin imagines what life might be like with a true mate by his side. He envisions long, whispered conversations under starlit skies, the sharing of secret dreams and hidden fears, and a bond that grows stronger with each passing day. Such a connection, he believes, would not only soothe his loneliness, but also ignite a fire within him, a fire of passion, of resilience, and of hope that could light his way even on the darkest nights. Yet the path to finding that elusive mate is fraught with uncertainty. The cyclical nature of his emotional pain, the repeated disappointments, and the lingering echoes of past hurt all conspire to make him doubt whether true fulfillment is within his reach. Each setback feels like another wall rising up, a barrier that separates him further from the completeness he so desperately seeks. And still, he clings to the belief that somewhere out there exists someone whose heart beats in synchrony with his, a soul that mirrors his own longing for connection, and who can fill the void that has haunted him for so long. As the morning slowly unfolds, Calvin rises from his reverie with a renewed sense of purpose. Despite the heavy weight of his past and the persistent ache of loneliness, there is a spark within him that refuses to be extinguished, a spark that whispers of possibilities yet unrealized. In the quiet moments before the day fully awakens, his heart beats with a quiet promise. a gentle hope that one day, amidst the vast tapestry of life, he will encounter the person destined to complete him. And so, with every rising sun, the question lingers in the silence of his soul, echoing softly, as if carried by the wind through an empty room. Will he ever find his missing piece? Daily life in the pack. Routine and subtle tensions. The morning light creeps slowly through the narrow windows of the pack house, casting elongated shadows across the worn wooden floor. Our protagonist wakes before dawn, greeted by the gentle hum of the world stirring awake. Despite the calm, there is an undeniable undercurrent of tension, an anticipation of a day that promises routine, yet hints at secrets just waiting to be unveiled. He rises from his modest bed, the cool air of early morning brushing against his skin as he prepares for the day ahead. Every movement is deliberate. Each action, from brushing his hair to selecting a plain, comfortable outfit, reflects the steady rhythm of a life bound by duty and survival. Yet beneath this meticulous routine lies a spark of restlessness. The pack has long been his family, a group bound not by blood but by shared struggles and unspoken loyalty. In the quiet hours of the morning, as he savors a simple breakfast, a modest bowl of cereal paired with a steaming mug of tea, he can almost feel the weight of history and expectation on his shoulders. Before the house fully awakens, he steps outside into the crisp air. The day's ritual begins with a crucial task: shifting and patrolling the borders of the pack territory. This is more than a routine assignment. It is a sacred duty that connects him with his true nature. In moments like these, when the cool morning air kisses his skin and the world feels raw and unfiltered, he experiences a fleeting sense of freedom. With a deep, steadying breath, he initiates the shift, a physical and spiritual transformation that allows him to tap into the primal instincts of his kind. As the shift takes hold, his human worries fade, replaced by the heightened awareness and agility of his wolf form. Along the familiar winding trails around the territory, he moves with quiet precision. His senses are acute, picking up every whisper of the wind, every subtle change in the forest's murmur. It is during these patrols that he feels most connected to the land, a vast, untamed canvas that holds both danger and solace. While the transformation liberates him, it also serves as a reminder of the duality of his existence. Part human, part beast. The balance is delicate, and he carries the responsibility of ensuring that no rogue intruders or hidden threats breach the sanctity of the pack's domain. On one such patrol, as the early light deepens into a pale morning glow, he encounters Beta Kevin. Kevin, ever the vigilant overachiever with an infectious energy, is already waiting near the edge of the trail. Their interaction is brief, but charged with mutual respect and camaraderie. Morning. Kevin greets with a quick smile that doesn't quite mask the intensity of his focus. There is a silent understanding between them, a bond forged in the necessity of protection and the shared burden of leadership. Kevin's presence, while steady and encouraging, also underscores the constant pressure to perform. Each day is a test of strength, resilience, and loyalty. Their brief exchange is punctuated by light-hearted banter, a welcome reprieve from the otherwise relentless seriousness of their duties. Yet, even in this moment of levity, the undercurrent of tension remains palpable. Both know that while the routine of patrolling the territory offers a sense of order, the outside world is unpredictable and ever-changing. As they part ways, their paths diverge along the winding trails, each step a silent promise to remain vigilant and ready for whatever may come. Returning to the pack house later in the morning, our protagonist's thoughts begin to wander towards the mysteries that lie beyond the familiar. Rumors have long circulated about a nearby, long-abandoned house, one that stands isolated on the outskirts of the territory, shrouded in an aura of mystery. There are whispers among the pack, fleeting accounts of strange lights and distant sounds that defy explanation. Though no one has dared to venture too close, the curiosity it evokes is palpable. It is as if this house, with its weathered exterior and overgrown grounds, holds the secrets of a forgotten era. A chapter of history that might hold both danger and the potential for unexpected revelations. As he steps back into his everyday routine, the thought of this enigmatic place lingers. It is a tantalizing contrast to the predictable rhythm of his mornings, a promise of mystery in a life otherwise defined by duty and routine. His patrols, his shifting, and even his interactions with Beta Kevin have all been part of a familiar cycle, yet the prospect of exploring this forgotten house ignites a spark of wonder within him. What stories lie hidden within those crumbling walls? What, or who, might be waiting there, just beyond the edge of the known territory? The day progresses, and as he resumes his responsibilities within the pack house, the anticipation grows. Every sound outside the window, every rustle of the wind, seems imbued with the possibility of the unknown. Amid the orderly chaos of daily life, there exists an undercurrent of suspense, a promise that, somewhere, the quiet whispers of a parallel existence beckon him forward. And as the final notes of the morning blend into the vibrant pulse of the day, one question echoes in his mind, lingering like the fading light of dawn. Who or what awaits just beyond the familiar? The mysterious house and ascent of destiny. The air grew thick with anticipation as the pack gathered near the edge of the woods, where a vacant house stood as a silent sentinel to years gone by. Its weathered facade and overgrown hedges whispered of a forgotten past, a relic left to nature's slow embrace. The house, nestled at the border where cultivated lawns met the wild, had long been a subject of hushed conversations among the pack. Today, with cautious curiosity and a shared sense of purpose, they set out to inspect it, each step laden with the promise of secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they approached the property, the familiar crunch of gravel underfoot was accompanied by a chorus of murmurs and speculative glances exchanged between the pack members. The atmosphere was charged with an intensity that went beyond routine duty. It was as though the very air pulsed with a hidden energy. Our protagonist, leading the group with a careful determination, felt his heart quicken. His mind raced with the possibilities. Was this house merely an abandoned structure? Or could it be a doorway to a destiny he had yet to imagine? Drawing closer, the details of the house began to emerge. Windows shrouded in creeping ivy, doors slightly ajar, and a porch that sagged under the weight of years. Every creak of the weathered wood and every rustle of leaves in the wind seemed to speak in cryptic tones. The group paused at the threshold, their breaths collectively held as they took in the sight. It was a place suspended between decay and lingering beauty, a setting both eerie and oddly enchanting. Then, as if the very air had shifted its focus, a captivating aroma began to weave its way through the natural scent of damp earth and old timber. It was the delicate, intoxicating fragrance of honey and wildflowers, a scent so unexpected in this abandoned place that it sent a shiver down his spine. For a moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. The aroma was soft yet undeniable, as if it carried with it a message from a realm beyond the ordinary. It floated around them, wrapping each person in its gentle embrace, stirring emotions that were both ancient and immediate. The protagonist's senses were suddenly heightened. He felt the fragrance like a warm caress, a signal that something extraordinary was about to unfold. As the scent grew richer, mingling with the cool, crisp air, it evoked vivid images in his mind. Visions of sunlit meadows, the gentle sway of wild blooms, and a life where destiny was not defined by isolation, but by the profound connections shared with another soul. Every inhalation deepened the mystery, hinting at a fate intertwined with love and renewal. His eyes widened as he exchanged a look with a trusted pack member, whose own gaze mirrored the wonder and the apprehension of the moment. The scent, seemingly out of place amidst the decay of the old house, carried with it a promise, a spark, a fate that seemed to transcend the immediate surroundings. It was as though the aroma was a calling, a subtle herald that whispered of a destiny yet to be written, The delicate interplay of floral notes and the rich, warm essence of honey stirred in him a sensation he had long believed was only a fantasy, a yearning for a connection so deep that it could heal even the most persistent wounds of solitude. With the group slowly advancing into the property, every step felt charged with significance. The vacant house, with its creaking floors and shadowed corridors, now appeared to be more than just a relic of the past. It was as if it had been waiting, patiently, for this very moment. The mysterious aroma intensified, guiding them deeper into the house's forgotten halls. In each room, beneath layers of dust and memories, the scent seemed to pulse with an almost rhythmic life of its own, beckoning him to follow its trail. As he wandered through the deserted corridors, he allowed his mind to wander to the possibility that this enchanting aroma might be more than a mere coincidence. Was it perhaps a sign? A subtle sensory message from the universe hinting that his long-awaited mate might be nearer than he ever dared hope? The interplay of sight, sound, and scent painted a picture of destiny in motion, a vivid, living tapestry where every detail mattered, where every sensory whisper might be the clue that would change his life forever. In that charged moment, as he paused in a sun-dappled hallway, with the aroma enveloping him like a soft, inviting veil, he felt the stirrings of fate once more. The sensation was delicate yet insistent, a reminder that life, in all its mystery and wonder, rarely unfolds in predictable ways. The house, the scent, and the quiet determination of the pack converged into a singular, tantalizing question that pulsed in the air with every breath he took. Could this enchanting aroma signal the arrival of his mate? The first encounter. Meeting Calvin, the mayor, the door creaked open slowly, and in that split second, time seemed to slow. Standing there on the threshold was a figure who immediately demanded attention, a tall, confident man whose presence radiated both authority and a warmth that belied his youthful features. Our protagonist's heart skipped a beat as he struggled to process the unexpected arrival of this man. Calvin Reed, the charismatic mayor of Fall Haven. For a moment, silence enveloped the scene. The soft hum of a nearby streetlight, the faint murmur of the wind outside, and the rapid beating of his own heart formed a backdrop to the surreal encounter. Calvin's eyes, a deep and inviting shade of brown, locked onto his with an intensity that was both unsettling and magnetic. He wore a crisp, understated outfit that somehow managed to make him look both approachable and undeniably authoritative. A subtle smile played at the corners of his lips, as if he already knew a secret the rest of the world was yet to uncover. "Hello," Calvin said, his voice smooth and measured, carrying an effortless charm that immediately put our protagonist at a loss for words. His introduction was simple, yet every syllable reverberated with a sincerity that felt rare in these troubled times. "I'm Calvin Reed. Please, call me Calvin. Welcome to Fall Haven." Internally, a whirlwind of emotions churned. Shock mingled with admiration, and an unexpected nervousness took hold. Could this be real? He wondered, as he struggled to catch his breath. His mind raced. This man? He's the mayor, and here he is welcoming me personally? The internal monologue was punctuated by a feeling of inadequacy, an undercurrent of disbelief that such an influential figure could be so effortlessly kind, yet it was impossible to ignore the way Calvin's gaze seemed to pierce right through the layers of his insecurities. As Calvin stepped forward, the initial formality of the encounter began to give way to a more relaxed, conversational tone. "I understand you're new around here," Calvin continued, nodding towards the pack house behind him. "I just wanted to personally welcome you to our town. I'm told there's a lot on your mind, and maybe, just maybe, I can help with that." There was something in his tone that hinted at a deeper understanding, a promise that beyond the simple greeting lay a possibility for connection, even in a place that had long been defined by isolation and hardship. Our protagonist found himself grappling with his own thoughts, the voice in his head a mix of awe and uncertainty. What if this is the moment that changes everything? He mused. He could hardly believe his luck. Here was Calvin, not only a leader but someone whose very presence seemed to ignite a spark of hope. Every word Calvin uttered resonated with a sense of purpose and an openness that made him seem almost too good to be true. There was an undeniable magnetism about him, one that both reassured and perplexed the young man who had spent so many days shrouded in solitude. The conversation unfolded gently, as if each sentence was a step toward breaking down the walls of his guarded heart. Calvin asked about his journey, his experiences, and even inquired about his thoughts on the town's unique atmosphere. The dialogue flowed smoothly, punctuated by brief pauses as our protagonist internally reeled from the impact of every compliment, every word of encouragement. At one point, he caught himself silently admiring the subtle confidence in Calvin's eyes, a look that spoke of hidden depths and dreams yet to be fulfilled. Yet beneath the surface of this warm, engaging exchange, there remained a palpable tension, an undercurrent of anticipation that hinted at something more significant. The encounter felt less like a mere introduction, and more like the beginning of a profound, unfolding story. With each word, with every shared smile, the lines between duty and desire began to blur. There was a sense that this meeting was not a random act of courtesy, but rather a carefully woven thread in the tapestry of his fate. As the conversation neared its natural pause, the room seemed to hold its breath. The familiar sounds of the house faded into the background, leaving only the quiet intensity of the moment. Our protagonist's internal dialogue surged. Could this be the turning point I've been waiting for? Is Calvin here to change everything? The mix of admiration and nervous energy was overwhelming, leaving him both exhilarated and scared by the possibilities that danced on the edge of his consciousness. Calvin's final words lingered in the air as he offered a parting smile that was both inviting and mysterious. "I'm glad you're here. I have a feeling that our paths crossing might mean something more than just a warm welcome." His tone was light, yet imbued with a sense of promise that left the young man staring into the space where the conversation had just ended, his mind swirling with questions and hopes. In that charged moment of connection, as the door slowly closed, behind Calvin, a quiet but insistent curiosity began to grow within him. He couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was the start of something transformative, a chapter in his life that could redefine his future in ways he had only dared to dream of. And so, with his heart pounding in both wonder and trepidation, he was left with a single lingering question. What might this encounter mean for his future? Breaking the ice. Awkward introductions and shared laughter. Later that morning, the tension of formal introductions slowly gave way to a more relaxed atmosphere in the warmth of the packhouse's kitchen. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the soft hum of conversation, creating an inviting space where awkwardness and charm intertwined in equal measure. Our protagonist, still reeling from his earlier encounters and introspections, found himself seated at a small kitchen table across from Calvin. The initial formality had melted into tentative smiles and the beginning of genuine banter. Calvin, ever the epitome of approachable authority, began the conversation by reaching for the coffee pot. "You know," he said with a light chuckle, "I never imagined a mayor's morning would involve so much coffee. It's almost like the secret to keeping up with all the responsibilities around here." His tone was playful and self-deprecating, a surprising contrast to the confident persona he exuded outside these walls. Our protagonist couldn't help but smile at the remark. "I suppose every leader has his little rituals," he replied, his voice soft yet laced with humor. There was an unmistakable awkwardness in his attempt to be witty, yet Calvin's eyes lit up with genuine amusement. In that moment, the conversation shifted from mere introductions to a shared experience, a gentle, humorous dance of words that allowed vulnerability to peek through. As they both reached for the sugar jar at the same time, their hands brushed ever so slightly, sparking a fleeting, almost imperceptible moment of connection. "Oh, excuse me," Calvin said with a slight grin, his tone teasing as if to acknowledge the coincidence without making too much of it. "It seems we have excellent timing." The protagonist blushed at the remark, his inner monologue filled with a mix of surprise and delight. Could this be the start of something more? Even as he tried to maintain a casual demeanor. They continued to banter as they prepared their coffee. Calvin expertly poured the steaming liquid into 2 mismatched mugs, his hands steady and practiced. "You know," he remarked while handing over a mug, "making coffee is almost like an art form. It requires just the right balance of precision and a bit of chaos. Kind of like life, don't you think?" The question hung in the air, light and teasing, yet laden with a subtle invitation to share personal thoughts. Our protagonist paused, letting the warmth of the coffee fill him both physically and emotionally. "Absolutely," he said, his voice softening. "Sometimes even the most awkward mornings can lead to the perfect blend." Their conversation meandered through trivial topics, favorite coffee blends, the best local spots for a quick bite, and even playful debates about which movie could perfectly capture the spirit of the town. With every shared laugh and gentle tease, the initial stiffness dissolved further, replaced by an undercurrent of mutual understanding. At one point, as they swapped stories of clumsy moments during early workdays, Calvin's eyes sparkled with a mix of humor and sincere empathy. "I remember the first time I tried to make coffee on my own," he confessed, chuckling. "I ended up with more grounds on the floor than in the cup. It was a mess, but it taught me that mistakes are just part of the process." The simplicity of his confession resonated with our protagonist, who had long struggled with his own perceived imperfections. In that shared moment of vulnerability, a quiet intimacy began to blossom. They both laughed, an honest, heartfelt laugh that bridged the gap between authority and the everyday person. The conversation, light as it was, carried hints of deeper emotions. Beneath the humor lay a mutual recognition of the difficulties they each faced in their separate worlds. Calvin, with his responsibilities and the weight of leadership, and the protagonist, with his own battles against isolation and internal scars. As the conversation drew on, the kitchen seemed to transform into a small stage for these unfolding emotions. The clatter of dishes and the aromatic steam rising from the coffee pot became the background score to a scene that was both ordinary and extraordinary. In these simple exchanges, there was a promise of understanding, of companionship that extended beyond polite chatter. Every subtle smile, every playful nudge, hinted at the possibility that beneath the surface, 2 hearts might be slowly learning to beat in tandem. The moment was tender, and yet filled with a spark of anticipation. As the morning light filtered through the window, painting the room in soft hues of gold and cream, both men sat in comfortable silence for a few long, reflective seconds. Their eyes met over the rim of their coffee mugs. A silent exchange that carried 1,000 unspoken words and the fragile hope of new beginnings. In that brief, precious pause, the question loomed large in the quiet room, hovering like a promise in the air. Could these small moments spark something greater? New beginnings, school, friendship, and unexpected connections. The first day at the new school dawns with a mix of anxious anticipation and a hopeful curiosity that almost makes the nerves feel like tiny sparks of excitement. As our protagonist steps onto the campus, his heart beats in a rapid rhythm, echoing the uncertainty of navigating a place where every hallway and classroom is still unfamiliar. The school, bathed in the soft glow of early morning light, seems at once welcoming and intimidating. A vast sea of potential connections waiting to be discovered. In the crowded corridors, he finds himself adrift amidst a flurry of voices and hurried steps. The faces are new, the names unspoken, and every interaction feels like a tentative step toward a future that promises change. His initial discomfort is palpable. Each glance feels scrutinizing, each whisper in the background, amplifying the weight of his solitary past. But amidst the initial disorientation, he is greeted by a gentle smile from a kind-hearted guidance counselor who seems to sense his unease. With a warm tone and encouraging words, The counselor offers him a map of the school's winding paths, introduces him to the layout of the classes, and explains the small traditions that make this school unique. This small act of kindness serves as a soothing balm to his frayed nerves, reminding him that not all new beginnings are filled with isolation. As the day progresses, he finds himself slowly blending into the rhythm of the new environment. In one of his first classes, the room buzzes with a mixture of chatter and quiet focus. While settling into his desk, he catches snippets of conversation that hint at shared interests and common dreams. Although every word feels like a barrier he must decode, he senses that beneath the surface, there lies an undercurrent of camaraderie waiting to be tapped into. Then, in the midst of the routine day, a chance encounter shifts the course of his morning entirely. While waiting for class to start, he meets Jason Reed, a friendly, outgoing student whose presence seems to light up even the most mundane corners of the school. Jason's introduction is unceremonious, marked by a casual, "Hey, you must be new here, right?" That immediately softens the rigid edge of the day's formality. There's an easy warmth in Jason's smile, and an openness in his manner that invites conversation without any pretension. Their first interaction is filled with an endearing awkwardness. As they exchange small talk about the classes and the best spots to grab a quick lunch, both are aware of the initial shyness that accompanies any new friendship. The dialogue flows naturally, as if they are discovering common ground that transcends the superficial. Jason, with his light teasing and genuine interest, manages to draw out a few soft laughs from our protagonist. Laughter that, even if fleeting, feels like the beginning of a bridge between isolation and belonging. Throughout the day, while navigating class schedules and the labyrinthine halls, the memory of Jason's kindness becomes a subtle beacon. In group projects, shared notes, and brief chats between classes, their connection deepens. Their friendship feels organic, forged in the simple, unguarded moments that come from sharing a common experience in a new, slightly overwhelming environment. There are moments of unspoken understanding. A glance exchanged during a particularly challenging class, a shared smile when a teacher cracks an unexpected joke, or the mutual relief that accompanies a smooth transition between subjects. Despite the initial discomfort of adjusting to a new school, these small interactions begin to add up, creating a tapestry of budding relationships and surprising alliances. Every shared laugh and every small act of kindness from classmates like Jason gradually erodes the loneliness that had once felt so impenetrable. The school, with all its uncertainties, transforms into a space of potential, a place where old ties, even if only faintly remembered, might find new expression, and where fresh friendships could emerge from the most unexpected encounters. In the quiet moments between classes, he finds himself reflecting on the day so far. The nervous energy that once had him on edge is slowly giving way to a cautious optimism. There is still a trace of unease, a lingering thought of whether he truly belongs in this new setting. Yet, each small gesture of friendship, every friendly word from a stranger, begins to kindle a hope that the pain of his past might one day be replaced by the warmth of shared experiences. As the final bell rings and the school day draws to a close, the corridors echo with the sounds of parting conversations and promises of tomorrow's reunions. The day's events, from the early, shaky steps into unfamiliar hallways to the gentle blossoming of a new friendship with Jason, weave together to create a rich, unfolding narrative of renewal and potential. And as he walks out of the school, his mind hums with the possibilities that lie ahead, a quiet anticipation building with every step. The memories of this day, marked by the comforting guidance of a stranger and the unexpected camaraderie of a new friend, linger like a promise. What adventures await as old ties and new friendships begin to intertwine, confronting the past, bullying, identity, and first sparks. In the busy corridors of his new school, despite the fresh start and newfound friendships, the echoes of past cruelty still reverberate. During a quiet moment between classes, a group of students makes a careless remark, a comment that dredges up memories of relentless bullying from his previous school. Their words, sharp and unthinking, cut through the tentative peace he's been building. In that instant, the lingering pain of past torment surfaces, and for a split second, the weight of old wounds feels almost unbearable. He recalls those days with a mix of sorrow and defiance, each taunt and sneer a scar that has long since faded, physically, but still aches in the depths of his soul. The voices of bullies from his past echo in his mind, whispering doubts about his worth, questioning his identity, and threatening to pull him back into a world he has fought so hard to leave behind. But today, something is different. Today, instead of shrinking in silence, he finds himself standing a little taller, his inner voice rising in a declaration of self-worth. In a class discussion, when a snide comment about his background is thrown, carelessly by a peer, the room falls silent for a heartbeat. His pulse quickens, and he feels the familiar sting of humiliation. But this time, there is a spark of rebellion. With a clear, steady voice, he responds, "I may be different, but my differences make me unique. I'm not defined by your narrow views or by my past." His words are simple, yet powerful, cutting through the tension like a beacon of self-assurance. There is a moment of stunned silence, followed by murmurs of surprise from his classmates. Some exchange looks that mix admiration with newfound respect, while others seem taken aback by the unexpected courage. Inside, the conflict churns. The scars of past bullying are still there, etched deep within him, a constant reminder of times when he felt unseen and unvalued. Yet this act of defiance also rekindles a burning desire to reclaim his identity. He realizes that his journey is not just about escaping cruelty. It's about embracing every part of who he is, the fragile and the fierce, the hurt and the hopeful. In that vulnerable yet resolute moment, he takes a stand not only for himself, but for anyone who has ever been belittled for being different. This inner battle over identity is both a personal triumph and a quiet precursor to deeper connections that might one day bloom into something transformative. He knows that defending himself is only the beginning of a much larger journey, a journey towards healing, and perhaps towards finding a mate who sees him for all his complexities. There's a subtle shift within him, an affirmation that his worth is not diminished by the cruelty of others, but rather enhanced by the strength he has found in overcoming it. Later in the day, as he walks the familiar halls of his new school, his mind is awash with conflicting emotions. Every corner seems to remind him of the past, yet also holds the promise of a future unburdened by old wounds. The gentle hum of student chatter, the rustle of papers, and the rhythmic clacking of sneakers on polished floors create a backdrop that is at once both familiar and entirely new. His inner thoughts are a quiet storm, a mixture of lingering sorrow, simmering defiance, and the tentative excitement of a future where his true self might finally be celebrated. He watches as a group of students gather in the courtyard, sharing jokes and light-hearted banter. There's an undeniable sense of camaraderie among them, a feeling of unity that he's longed for but rarely experienced. In that moment, he wonders if perhaps these bonds could grow into something more profound, an affirmation that he belongs, that his voice matters in the tapestry of life. His heart flutters at the possibility, and he feels a subtle, almost imperceptible stirring, an invitation to let down his guard, to allow the vulnerability of his true self to shine through. Though the day is filled with moments of lingering, pain, and the constant echo of past hurts, there's also a new energy emerging, a cautious hope that each confrontation and every act of defiance is a step toward a fuller, richer identity. He is beginning to see that by facing his past, he can carve out a future defined not by the cruelty he once endured, but by the resilience and strength he has found within himself. As he leaves the classroom, the words he spoke echo in his mind, a defiant promise to himself and to the world. The memory of that bold declaration fuels his resolve, and he walks with a newfound determination. Yet, even amid this inner triumph, there remains an open question, a delicate thread of anticipation, woven through his thoughts. Will this spark ignite a transformative love? A date to remember. The nervous journey to the pizza joint. The day of the date dawned with a mixture of hope and anxiety that pulsed through every fiber of his being. As the morning light crept through the curtains, he found himself lost in a whirl of pre-date jitters. Every heartbeat felt amplified, as if marking the seconds until the moment his life might change. The thought of meeting Calvin again, this time on a date, filled him with an electrifying mix of anticipation and nervous energy. He started his day with an unusually meticulous routine. In the quiet of his room, he carefully chose his outfit, each decision made with the weight of expectation. He checked his reflection in the mirror, searching for a confidence that seemed elusive. The mirror, however, offered him a glimpse of vulnerability, mixed with a spark of determination. With every breath, he recited silent affirmations. I deserve this. I am ready. I am enough. Yet, as he stepped out of his room, the corridors of the pack house echoed with the familiar sounds of daily life, and his thoughts began to tangle in a web of what-ifs and maybe-nots. Leaving home felt like an act of bravery. With his pulse racing, he made his way to the car, where his heart hammered against his ribcage as he set off for the pizza joint, a casual venue chosen to ease the tension of a first date. The ride was a blur of passing streetlights and the soft murmur of the radio. He barely noticed the scenery as his mind replayed every interaction from the past few days. The memory of Calvin's warm, engaging smile and gentle humor mingled with his own nerves, creating a cocktail of excitement and doubt. In the car, time seemed to stretch. Each red light, each slow-moving vehicle, added to the mounting suspense. His thoughts raced. What if I say something foolish? What if Calvin sees right through my nervousness? Despite these internal conflicts, there was also a steady current of hope, an inkling that this encounter might be the beginning of something profound. Every so often, he would catch his reflection in the rearview mirror, a fleeting image of a young man on the brink of transformation, his eyes reflecting both apprehension and the glimmer of a new possibility. Arriving at the pizza joint, the neon sign flickered gently against the dusk, and the building exuded a casual charm that seemed to say, "Everything will be all right." The cool evening air embraced him as he stepped out of the car, and his heart raced with anticipation. Each step toward the entrance was heavy with nervous energy, his mind a flurry of hopes and fears. The soft hum of background chatter from nearby patrons blended with the sound of his own heartbeat, creating a rhythmic cadence that mirrored his inner turmoil. Inside, the atmosphere was warmly lit and inviting, a stark contrast to the stark, anxious solitude he had carried with him. The pizza joint was a cozy haven, its walls adorned with vintage photographs and quirky memorabilia that hinted at stories of shared laughter and simpler times. He paused at the doorway, taking in the scene, and felt a small, reassuring smile tug at the corners of his lips. Despite the nervousness that still danced in his veins, the environment offered a sense of calm, a promise that here, in this unassuming place, he might just find a moment of peace. The minutes before the meeting felt interminable. He found a quiet corner, ordered a coffee, and sat at a small table, his eyes darting to the entrance every time the door swung open. His thoughts tumbled over one another, memories of previous dates, snippets of conversations with friends, and the persistent question, is today the day my life takes a new turn? The air around him was filled with both the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the undercurrent of anticipation that made every second feel charged with possibility. Then, as if orchestrated by fate, the door opened again, and Calvin walked in. His presence instantly transformed the atmosphere. The room seemed to brighten a fraction as Calvin approached with a calm, confident stride. For a moment, the noise of the bustling restaurant faded into the background, and all that remained was the silent, steady thump of their shared heartbeat. Calvin's eyes met his, and in that gaze, there was an unspoken understanding, an acknowledgement of the vulnerability and hope that lay beneath the surface. Their initial conversation was peppered with gentle laughter and light teasing. Every smile, every shared glance, carried the potential of something more. As they found a table together, the nervous energy shifted into a subtle, comforting rhythm. They spoke of trivialities at first, favorite pizza toppings, amusing stories from school, but gradually the conversation deepened. Calvin's easy charm seemed to dissolve the tension, and in the soft cadence of their dialogue, our protagonist felt the tight grip of anxiety loosen, replaced by a quiet, budding excitement. Yet, despite the warmth of the exchange, every nervous thought still lingered, each anxious heartbeat a reminder of the vulnerability that comes with the possibility of love. As the evening unfolded, the ambiance of the pizza joint, with its gentle hum and the aroma of delicious food, served as the perfect backdrop for what could be the start of a life-changing connection. The anticipation was palpable, and the soft murmur of their conversation wove together with the clink of glasses and the soft background music, creating a tapestry of shared moments that felt both fleeting and eternal. In the midst of these intimate exchanges, a thought lingered at the edge of his consciousness, a delicate question that hinted at the possibilities of the night. Will this date be the start of something life-changing? First date. Drama. Laughter, tension, and unexpected interruptions. At the pizza joint, the air buzzed with a vibrant mix of chatter, clinking cutlery, and the soft strains of background music. The cozy eatery was bustling, yet somehow, in their corner table, Calvin and our protagonist managed to create a little bubble of their own. Their conversation had been flowing steadily from light-hearted teasing about pizza toppings to shared anecdotes about embarrassing school moments. The atmosphere was friendly and intimate, until an unexpected interruption threatened to shatter the budding connection. It started with a subtle shift in the waiter's demeanor. As Calvin leaned in to share a witty remark about the art of crafting the perfect slice, the waiter approached with a look that quickly turned sour. "You too," the waiter snapped, his tone laced with disdain. "I don't see why you have to be so public with your affections." The remark was delivered in a low, mocking drawl, and for a heartbeat, the ambient hum of the restaurant seemed to falter. Calvin's smile wavered for an instant, but he quickly recovered, replying coolly, "We're just here to enjoy our meal, thank you." His words were measured, yet behind them lay an unmistakable edge of defiance. Our protagonist felt a shiver of both anger and vulnerability surge through him. The confrontation struck a nerve, a stark reminder that even in the midst of an evening, meant for new beginnings, old prejudices could still rear their ugly head. As the waiter huffed and stalked away, the tension that had gripped the table began to dissipate slowly. The initial shock gave way to a ripple of nervous laughter between them, a shared, unspoken agreement that life, with all its unpredictable twists, would not let this moment define the entire evening. "Well, that was unexpected," our protagonist said with a wry smile, attempting to diffuse the lingering awkwardness. Calvin's eyes twinkled as he chuckled lightly, replying, "Seems like even the pizza joint isn't immune to drama." Their laughter mingled with the background din, a brief reprieve from the emotional jolt of the encounter. For a moment, the incident became the punchline of an impromptu joke. "At least if the food isn't spicy enough, we've got the waiters. Attitude to heat things up," Calvin teased, his voice warm and teasing. The playful banter helped them steer the conversation back onto safer, lighter territory. As they resumed their meal, they began to share more about themselves, stories of awkward high school moments, quirky habits, and dreams that often felt too fragile to speak aloud. Their dialogue flowed naturally, each laugh and shared smile, reinforcing a mutual sense of understanding. But beneath the surface of humor and casual conversation, there was an undercurrent of emotional tension. The interruption had opened a door to deeper reflections. The pain of past rejections, the scars left by a world that sometimes seemed hostile to the kind of love they were discovering. Every time the waiter's bitter words echoed in their memory, a quiet determination surged between them, an affirmation that no one's prejudice could overshadow the genuine connection that was beginning to take root. As the evening progressed, the environment around them shifted subtly. The restaurant's energy evolved with the soft fading of daylight, the once boisterous chatter mellowing into a more reflective murmur. In that delicate transition, their conversation deepened further. Calvin spoke of the challenges he had faced, both as a leader and as someone who longed for a love that truly embraced every facet of his identity. Our protagonist listened intently, his own heart opening up in ways he had never allowed before. The shared vulnerability created an unspoken bond that was as delicate as it was powerful, yet, even in this moment of heartfelt connection, a sense of uncertainty lingered. The earlier confrontation had been a jolt, a reminder that the road to meaningful love is rarely free of obstacles. Every laugh now carried a hint of defiance, every touch a promise of resilience. The conversation became a subtle dance, a balance between light teasing and deep-seated emotional sharing. In one particularly quiet moment, as they sat side by side with their hands nearly touching, our protagonist's thoughts drifted to the fragility of what they were building. A connection that, despite its tenderness, existed in a world where acceptance was still hard-won. Glancing around the room, he couldn't help but wonder about the countless stories unfolding in the other corners of the pizza joint. Stories of love found, hearts mended, and conflicts quietly resolved over shared meals. His mind raced with questions. Could this evening be the spark that sets them on a path toward a future that defies the bitterness of the past? Could the laughter they shared, even amid unexpected tension, be the first note of a symphony that would carry them beyond the scars of rejection? As they finished their meal and the evening deepened into a soft, indigo night, a comfortable silence settled between them, a silence filled with anticipation and the promise of more shared moments. Their eyes met over empty plates and lingering cups of coffee, each glance heavy with meaning. It was a moment that seemed to suspend time, a delicate pause before the next chapter of an evening that was rapidly evolving into something far more significant than a simple dinner. And as the door to the pizza joint closed behind them, leaving them to step out into the cool night air, the question that hung in the space between them was both an invitation and a challenge, a subtle, thrilling query that resonated in their hearts. What will happen next in this roller coaster of emotions? Heart-to-heart moments, sharing pain and comfort, in a quiet corner of the evening, away from the clamor of busy streets and the lingering echoes of earlier laughter and tension, our protagonist found himself in a rare, tender moment of vulnerability. The soft glow of a bedside lamp cast gentle shadows on the wall, and the steady tick of the clock marked the passing seconds with comforting regularity. Here, in the hushed intimacy of his own space, he allowed himself to open up, slowly, hesitantly, about the deep-seated pain that had haunted him for so long. His voice, quiet and trembling at first, began to unravel the story of a past filled with trauma and loss. He spoke of cruel words that once cut deeper than any physical blow, of moments when he felt utterly invisible, alone in a world that seemed determined to reject him. There were days when I thought the darkness would swallow me whole, he confessed, each syllable laden with memories of isolation and despair. He repeated this truth softly, almost as if the act of saying it out loud could somehow lessen its weight. I was lost. I was hurt. I was alone. As his words filled the stillness of the room, Calvin sat close by, his presence a steady, comforting warmth. Calvin's eyes, gentle and understanding, never wavered from his gaze. With a soft, reassuring smile, Calvin reached out, placing a warm hand on his shoulder. "I'm here," Calvin said in a tender murmur, a phrase repeated like a mantra. "I'm here for you." In that simple repetition, there was a promise that even the deepest scars could be touched by kindness, that even the most broken hearts could be slowly mended with love. The atmosphere became thick with empathy and shared silence, as if both understood that this was more than just an exchange of words. It was a healing ritual, a quiet space where past pain was acknowledged without judgment. Our protagonist's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he recounted the loss of those who once meant the world to him, the friends who had turned away, the family that had failed to protect, and the self that had been diminished by relentless cruelty. "I felt so abandoned, so empty," he repeated, his voice a soft echo of his inner turmoil. "I felt so abandoned, so empty." Calvin listened, his expression filled with a compassionate sorrow that mirrored his own past hurts. In his attentive silence, Calvin offered comfort without needing to fill every pause with words. When our protagonist's voice faltered, Calvin's gentle squeeze of his hand spoke volumes, a silent vow that his pain mattered, that he was not alone in his struggle. "You are not defined by your pain," Calvin whispered. "You are defined by your strength, by your courage to speak your truth." The soft cadence of their conversation wove together moments of raw honesty and gentle reassurance. Calvin shared fragments of his own journey, a path that, too, had been marred by loss and the ache of unfulfilled love. "I know what it feels like to carry scars that never quite fade," he admitted quietly, his words imbued with a personal vulnerability that resonated deeply. "I know the weight of those memories, and I also know that love, real, honest love, can begin to heal those wounds little by little." His words, repeated with a calm insistence, began to create a space where healing was not only possible, but slowly taking root. In that softly lit room, with every whispered word and every gentle touch, the air itself seemed to breathe a little, easier. The echoes of the past, once so loud and overpowering, began to recede, replaced by a steady pulse of hope. There was an undeniable rhythm in the way Calvin's reassurance repeated, "I'm here. I'm here for you." Each time the "E" phrase was uttered, it acted as a gentle balm on the raw edges of his heart. And as the night deepened, so did their connection. Each shared memory and quiet confession, a step toward reclaiming a part of himself that had long been hidden in the shadows. The room, a sanctuary of soft light and tender honesty, became a cocoon where pain was met with compassion and brokenness was held with care. In that vulnerable space, the unspoken promise of healing emerged, that the wounds of the past, though deep and unyielding, might one day be soothed by the quiet power of love. The gentle, repeated words of comfort created an echo that reverberated in every corner of the room, a constant reminder that even the deepest scars are not permanent. As the conversation dwindled into a comfortable, reflective silence, a single, heartfelt question lingered in the air, inviting both introspection and hope. Can love mend even the deepest scars? Revelations and confessions. Unspoken feelings come to light. In the quiet aftermath of shared pain and gentle comfort, the air between them began to shimmer with an unspoken truth. The soft hum of the night seemed to cradle every whispered word. And in that intimate silence, our protagonist found the courage to let his hidden feelings breathe. The vulnerability he had long guarded was slowly giving way to a powerful need to be honest about the growing warmth in his heart. A warmth that had taken root in the presence of Calvin. Sitting side by side in the dim glow of the room, he felt the weight of every memory and every scar, not as burdens to be hidden, but as testaments to his journey. With each heartbeat, the tension of uncertainty and hope mingled, urging him to speak the truth he had held close for so long. His hands trembled slightly as he reached out to touch Calvin's, a tentative yet unmistakable gesture of connection. The touch was soft, almost feather-like, and it sent a ripple of reassurance through him, as if Calvin's very presence had the power to mend the fragile parts of his soul. "Calvin," he began, his voice low and earnest, "I need to tell you something that I've been feeling for a while now." His words wavered at first, betraying the raw vulnerability that lay beneath the surface. In that moment, Every doubt and every past hurt seemed to converge into a single point of clarity. He looked into Calvin's eyes, those eyes that had witnessed his quiet suffering and had shared in the gentle healing of his heart. And he knew that this was the moment he had been waiting for. I felt this pull, this connection, something I can't quite explain, he continued, each word carrying the weight of years spent hidden behind walls of fear and solitude. Every time I'm with you, I feel like I'm finally seen for who I am. And even though I'm scared of being vulnerable, scared of losing what little I have, I can't keep pretending that my feelings are just fleeting thoughts or simple gratitude. His voice grew stronger, more resolute with every syllable. I'm in love with you, Calvin. I know it might sound sudden, and I know there's a lot we haven't figured out yet, but it's true. I care about you deeply, and every moment we share makes me believe that maybe, just maybe, I've finally found the missing piece I've been searching for. The confession hung in the air, delicate yet charged with emotion. Calvin's expression softened, a mixture of surprise and tender understanding reflecting in his eyes. For a long moment, time itself seemed to pause, as if the universe was holding its breath to witness the truth of this vulnerable admission. There was no grand flourish in his declaration, only the simple, honest truth that emerged from years of hidden pain and unspoken longing. In the silence that followed, the room filled with the unspoken language of their shared experience. Calvin's hand squeezed his in a gentle, affirming gesture that spoke louder than words. I never expected to hear that tonight, Calvin murmured softly, his voice laden with a quiet warmth that made the confession feel like a balm on old wounds. I've always felt something too, something I couldn't quite name. I was afraid it would never be enough, that I'd be left alone with my doubts. But hearing you say this, it makes me wonder if maybe we're not as broken as we think. Their eyes met again, and in that moment, the vulnerability of the confession transformed into a shared understanding. The unspoken promise of healing and mutual acceptance filled the space between them. The weight of past rejections and the scars of previous hurts seemed to lift, replaced by the gentle assurance that together, they might carve out a new future, a future where their imperfections were not obstacles, but the very elements that made them beautifully human. The conversation drifted into a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the soft sounds of the night beyond the window. Every so often their hands would brush, a reminder of the connection that had been quietly nurtured and was now blossoming into something real and transformative. In that quiet, heartfelt exchange, the fragile boundaries between fear and hope began to blur. The future was uncertain, and the path ahead was fraught with challenges, but the clarity of this shared moment offered a glimmer of promise that resonated deeply within them both. In the depths of the night, as the world outside continued its silent vigil, a question emerged, a question born from the raw, honest confession and the tender, growing connection between two souls who had long known only the sting of loneliness. What if love is all we truly need? Intimate moments, the first kiss and tender exchanges, in the quiet space of a dimly lit room, where soft music played in the background and the gentle hum of the night served as a lullaby, an unspoken energy began to build. The air felt warm, filled with the delicate scent of lavender and a hint of something sweet, perhaps the memory of a shared coffee or the lingering aroma of the evening's meal. Every detail around them was amplified, as if the world had slowed down just for this moment. They sat close together on a plush, overstuffed sofa, a small table between them holding only 2 cups of tea that had long since cooled. The conversation had gradually shifted from playful banter to more personal reflections. Their eyes had met several times during the exchange, and with each look, the distance between them seemed to shrink. Laughter had given way to quiet smiles, and the tension in the room grew into a tender anticipation. Calvin's hand, still warm from their earlier reassuring squeeze, now reached out slowly, almost hesitantly, to brush a stray curl from the protagonist's face. The simple touch sent a ripple of warmth through his skin, a sensation that was both electrifying and soothing. "You know," Calvin said softly, a playful glimmer in his eyes, "I think your smile just made this room a little brighter." The words, spoken in a low, tender tone, were a gentle tease, a light-hearted compliment that carried so much meaning beneath its surface. Their conversation resumed, more intimate now, as they shared memories of childhood dreams and the hopes that had once seemed as fragile as glass. Every word was laced with vulnerability and a shared recognition of the struggles they had both endured. The subtle exchange of glances and gentle laughter created a cocoon of safety around them, where nothing else mattered except the connection they were nurturing. As the minutes passed, the space between them grew charged with a magnetic pull. The protagonist found himself acutely aware of every detail. The soft sound of Calvin's breathing, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he laughed, and the almost imperceptible shift in the ambient light that seemed to glow with the warmth of their growing bond. It was as though every sensory detail was in perfect harmony, building up to an inevitable crescendo. The playful teasing continued, each remark a delicate step toward breaking down the final barriers of reserve. "I've never met anyone who could make even a rainy day feel like a summer afternoon," Calvin joked, his voice carrying a sincere warmth that made the words feel like a secret shared only between them. The protagonist's heart fluttered at the compliment, and he replied with a light laugh. "Then I must be doing something right, because being here with you feels exactly like that." Their banter, though light and teasing, carried an undercurrent of deep, unspoken emotion, a promise of more than just friendship. As the evening wore on, and the room seemed to wrap around them like a soft blanket, their conversation slowed and became quieter. In that delicate pause, their eyes met once more, and it was as if the unspoken longing between them filled the silence. The protagonist's pulse quickened, and he felt as if the world had contracted to just the two of them. A gentle, almost imperceptible shift occurred, a soft leaning in, the slightest tilt of a head, a shared moment where time itself seemed to stand still. And then, as if drawn by an irresistible force, Calvin's hand found the protagonist's, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that spoke volumes of both comfort and desire. The intensity of the moment was breathtaking. Every nerve seemed to awaken. Every breath was a silent promise of something more. Their eyes remained locked, communicating a depth of feeling that words could not capture, a conversation of glances and smiles that transcended the need for spoken language. The space between them grew even smaller, until, finally, the inevitable happened. Their faces drew closer, and with a gentle, tentative movement, they shared their first kiss. It was a kiss that was soft and exploratory, tender as a whisper, yet filled with the intensity of years of longing. The world around them blurred into insignificance as the taste of each other mingled with the lingering aroma of tea and the faint scent of lavender. Every detail was heightened, the slight parting of lips, the delicate pressure of their foreheads as they pressed together, the soothing warmth that spread through their bodies with the connection of that first, shared kiss. When they finally pulled apart, their eyes remained locked, speaking silent assurances of newfound possibilities. There was no need for extravagant declarations. The gentle exchange had said it all. The protagonist's heart, still pounding with the echo of the kiss, was filled with a sense of wonder and hope. In that tender moment, everything seemed possible. Pain might be eased, old wounds might finally begin to mend, and the promise of a future filled with mutual care and understanding glimmered softly in the quiet aftermath. As they settled back into the comfortable silence, a lingering question hung in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled, inviting both of them, and the audience, to wonder about what comes next. What will be the next spark of intimacy in this unfolding tale of connection? Shifting realities. Embracing the werewolf nature. In the soft twilight of a waning day, as the last vestiges of sunlight struggled to escape the horizon, a quiet transformation began. It started with a tremor, a ripple of energy that coursed through his veins, stirring something deep and primal. The familiar contours of his human form began to blur as he felt an irresistible pull toward his true, untamed nature. The air around him shifted, heavy with anticipation and the scent of damp earth and pine, as if nature itself was calling him home. Every sense awakened in a symphony of vivid clarity. He closed his eyes and let the feeling wash over him, the tingling in his muscles, the rapid beat of his heart, and the quiet, mysterious hum that seemed to vibrate in the very air. In that suspended moment, he knew he was on the cusp of change. The boundaries between human and beast dissolved as a warm, liquid energy enveloped him, drawing him into the ancient, mystical process of shifting. With slow, rhythmic breaths, his body began to transform. The skin felt like it was caressed by an unseen force, reshaping, reforming with each heartbeat. The rush of sensations was overwhelming. There was fear, yes, as the known world receded, but also an awe-inspiring wonder that filled him with a deep connection to a timeless, wild heritage. As his form shifted, thick, dark hair sprouted along his arms and legs, and his eyes glowed with a fierce intensity, reminiscent of the wild creatures that roamed untamed forests. In that transformative moment, he wasn't merely changing shape. He was unlocking the raw essence of who he truly was. Emerging from the chrysalis of his human form, he felt the powerful surge of his inner wolf, an animal spirit that was both graceful and formidable. Every movement was fluid and precise, as if he had been dancing to a silent ancestral rhythm all his life. The once familiar world now took on a different texture. The night air was cooler, sharper, and every sound, each rustle of leaves, every distant howl, became a vivid note in a symphony that celebrated his rebirth. This transformation was more than physical. It was deeply emotional. With his heightened senses, he could feel the pulse of nature around him and the fierce bond with the pack, a connection that transcended words. In that moment, he remembered the comforting presence of those who had stood by him, their support a vital lifeline amid the storms of his past. The bond that tied him to his pack was raw and powerful, a force that combined the primal instincts of the wild with the tender, nurturing aspects of love. It was a union of heart and instinct, a reminder that within the depths of the beast lay not only ferocity, but also the capacity for profound care. As the transformation reached its peak, he opened his eyes to a new reality. His vision was sharper, more attuned to the subtle details of the world. The colors of the night were richer, the contrast between light and shadow more defined, and the sense of the forest mingled with the remnants of his human memories. There was a wild freedom in his movements now, a potent mix of fear, exhilaration, and an almost sacred connection to everything around him. In this heightened state, every muscle was alive with energy. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, signaling the start of an ancient rite. He ventured outside, feeling the cool grass beneath his transformed paws, his steps echoing softly in the quiet of the night. The forest loomed around him, an eternal guardian of secrets and stories from ages past. It beckoned him with a mysterious allure, whispering promises of untold adventures and hidden truths. His heightened senses absorbed every detail, the gentle rustle of leaves, the faint calls of nocturnal creatures, and the distant murmur of a flowing stream. In that profound communion with nature, he felt an overwhelming sense of belonging, as if he had finally returned to where he truly belonged. Yet, amid this overwhelming sense of awe and liberation, there was also a lingering note of tension, a subtle reminder that such transformations came with their own set of challenges. The newfound power was intoxicating, but it demanded balance and wisdom. The connection with his inner beast was raw and unfiltered, and while it offered an incredible sense of freedom, it also carried the weight of ancient instincts that could be as destructive as they were liberating. In that pivotal moment, standing at the edge of the forest, his heart pounded with the rhythm of the wild. The night whispered secrets of old, and in the silence, He felt both the gentle pulse of life and the fierce call of his ancestral spirit. The transformation was complete, yet the journey was only beginning. Every new sense, every stirring of instinct, resonated with the promise of change and the untamed potential of his dual nature. And as he took a deep, steadying breath, he couldn't help but wonder, with a spark of provocative anticipation, what happens when the beast inside awakens? Battles and protectiveness, confronting external threats. The calm of the night shattered like glass as chaos erupted on the borders of the pack's territory. The once quiet forest echoed with the ferocious roars of combat and the sharp, urgent commands of the pack. Rogues and hunters, driven by a dark vendetta and a hunger for dominance, had breached the territory with brutal intent. In the midst of this savage storm, our transformed protagonist sprang into action, every fiber of his being ignited by a fierce, protective fury. With the instincts of the wolf surging through his veins, he moved like a shadow between the trees, swift, silent, and deadly precise. The air was thick with tension as he intercepted an aggressive charge by a rogue, a hulking figure with wild eyes and clashing armor. Their collision was explosive. Each impact of their bodies reverberated like thunder. In a blur of motion, he lunged forward, his powerful jaws snapping shut on the attacker's shoulder, the sound of tearing flesh mingling with the savage howls of battle. Every action was driven by an unwavering resolve to defend his pack and protect the ones he cared for. Amid the fierce melee, his mind was a maelstrom of raw emotions. The memory of past betrayals, especially the searing pain of familial rejection, added fuel to his resolve. The bitter taste of betrayal mingled with the adrenaline of combat, and he fought not only to survive, but to reclaim his honor. Each blow he delivered, each opponent he subdued, was a declaration. He would not be broken by those who sought to destroy his home and his identity. The battlefield was a chaotic tapestry of clashing limbs, snarls, and desperate shouts. He found himself locked in a brutal struggle with a hunter, a relentless foe armed with makeshift weapons and venomous intent. The hunter's eyes burned with hatred, and every strike was accompanied by a sneer, a reminder of the deep-seated animosity that had driven this attack. With a roar, our protagonist dodged a wild swing, his heart pounding in sync with his rapid breaths. In that heartbeat, he countered with a swift, decisive kick that sent the hunter sprawling, his weapon clattering to the ground. Around him, the fight raged on. Members of the pack fought valiantly, their own fierce protectiveness echoing in every clash of claws and every guttural cry. The synergy of their combined strength created a wall of defiance against the invading forces. Yet, amidst the brutal struggle, the pain of family betrayal, of being cast aside by those who were meant to protect, burned like a fresh wound in his heart. It was that very pain that spurred him to fight harder, to let every ounce of rage fuel his determination. His mind, though clouded with the chaos of battle, was set on one clear objective: to ensure that no one, not even those he once trusted, could harm his pack. The relentless surge of the enemy pushed him to the edge. At one point, a particularly vicious assault by a group of rogues threatened to overwhelm his defenses. Their numbers were overwhelming, and the bitter cacophony of their assault filled the air. In that critical moment, his protective instincts flared into an almost primal roar. With a burst of speed that defied the chaos, he intercepted their attack, his claws slicing through the air with razor-sharp precision. The dance of combat became a blur of movement, each strike and counterstrike a testament to his unyielding will. He was a whirlwind of fury and precision, a living embodiment of the raw power of the beast within. Between the surges of adrenaline, he caught glimpses of familiar faces, pack members fighting with courage, their eyes alight with a shared determination. Their unity, forged in the crucible of adversity, offered him a brief respite from the maelstrom of violence. In those fleeting moments, the chaos seemed to recede into a background hum, replaced by the bond of loyalty that had kept them together through countless storms. Yet, as the battle raged on, the cost of their struggle was evident in every labored breath and every wounded cry. The forest, once a symbol of serenity and shelter, now bore the scars of conflict, broken branches, deep gouges in the earth, and the echoing cries of the fallen. The intensity of the fight was matched only by the emotional turmoil churning within him, a constant reminder that this war was not just against an external enemy, but against the lingering ghosts of betrayal that had once nearly shattered his spirit. In the midst of this epic confrontation, the question of survival and loyalty hung heavy in the air. The clash between raw aggression and the steadfast desire to protect what he held dear was a battle waged on both physical and emotional fronts. Every moment, every decisive move on the battlefield was a step toward reclaiming his place in the world, a declaration that love, loyalty, and the bond of the pack would endure even in the face of overwhelming darkness. As the night deepened and the conflict began to wane, a tentative calm began to settle over the battered landscape. The echoes of the battle slowly faded, replaced by a fragile silence that was heavy with both relief and the scars of war. In that hush, with the remnants of the fight still visible in the trembling leaves and the quiet sorrow of wounded souls, one thought resonated in the back of his mind, a powerful, lingering question: will love and loyalty prevail amid the storm? Healing and renewal, a temporary respite. After the clash of battle, the night seemed to exhale a deep, lingering sigh. The chaos had subsided, and now a quiet calm descended over the pack's territory. In the soft glow of flickering lanterns, and under a sky still marked by the scars of conflict, the pack gathered to tend to their wounds and to find solace in one another's presence. In a modest clearing near the pack house, members of the group worked together with a shared sense of purpose. There was a gentle urgency in the way they moved, each action a careful balance of compassion and determination. Our protagonist, still raw from the fury of the fight, sat quietly on a fallen log. His fur, dark and matted with the remnants of battle, now glistened with sweat and scattered droplets of blood. With tender care, a few close allies, including Beta Kevin and others, helped clean his wounds. They used cool water and cloth, and their hands moved with both practiced efficiency and genuine concern. Every gentle touch served as a quiet promise that he was not alone, that his pain was shared and understood. As he was treated, he watched his pack in action. One member carefully bandaged a cut along another's flank, while another offered comforting words and soft, encouraging smiles. The atmosphere was one of resilience and renewal. Despite the lingering sting of battle and the fresh ache of loss, there was an undeniable current of relief that flowed through them, a collective exhale after a long, painful struggle. In the pod, makeshift infirmary set up near the pack house, the air was filled with the mingled scents of antiseptic, earth, and a faint aroma of herbs that someone had thoughtfully gathered. The room was calm and orderly, a stark contrast to the wild tumult of earlier hours. Here, under the careful supervision of an experienced healer, Dr. Ray, the wounded were attended to with methodical kindness. Our protagonist lay back, eyes half closed, as Dr. Ray murmured reassurances, explaining each step of the treatment with a gentle tone that carried both authority and compassion. "We'll take care of you," the healer promised, repeating the phrase like a soft mantra that echoed around the room. Yet even in this carefully orchestrated healing, uncertainty still lingered. The scars of battle were visible not only on their bodies, but also in the quiet moments of reflection that passed between them. In the soft, muted conversations, there was talk of the cost of the night's violence and a careful weighing of what the future might hold. Some spoke in hushed tones about the deep wounds, both physical and emotional, that might take longer to mend. But in every whispered word, there was also a palpable hope, a belief that this temporary respite could serve as a turning point. Gathered around, the pack shared quiet stories of past struggles and small victories, their voices a chorus of mutual support. Each narrative was a thread in the tapestry of their shared journey, a reminder that healing was a collective process, built on trust and the willingness to lean on one another. In the soft laughter that occasionally broke through the somber atmosphere, there was a spark of renewal, a signal that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit could find the strength to rise again. Our protagonist listened as a close friend recounted a personal story of loss, the words flowing with both sorrow and the gentle hope of recovery. "Every scar tells a story," his friend said, his voice soft but steady. "And every story, no matter how painful, carries the seed of something new." Those words resonated deeply with him, stirring a quiet resolve. In that moment, he realized that the process of healing was not merely about mending broken bodies. It was about rebuilding a sense of self, about nurturing the inner strength that had been buried under layers of pain. Outside, the night continued, its slow, soothing descent. The cool air, now imbued with the soft fragrance of night-blooming flowers, seemed to whisper promises of fresh beginnings. Even as the pack worked diligently to restore order, the lingering uncertainty of the future mingled with a shared determination to move forward together. There was a collective recognition that the battle had been fought, but the journey toward complete renewal was just beginning. As the healing process settled into a quiet rhythm, our protagonist's eyes drifted upward to the open sky. The stars shone with a soft intensity, each one a tiny beacon of hope amid the darkness. In that moment of calm reflection, a single thought emerged, gentle yet insistent. A question that echoed in the hush of the night, inviting everyone present to dream and to believe in the promise of tomorrow. What new strength will emerge? The moon goddess's intervention, gifts and warnings. On a night when the moon shone at its fullest, its silver light casting long, ethereal shadows across the healing grounds of the pack house, a presence unlike any other stirred the quiet air. As if born on a whisper of ancient magic, the moon goddess appeared, a figure both otherworldly and mesmerizing. Draped in flowing robes that shimmered with the subtle luminescence of starlight, she moved with a grace that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. Her eyes, deep pools of mystery and wisdom, surveyed the gathering of weary pack members with a mixture of compassion and stern resolve. The atmosphere shifted immediately as her presence filled the space. A hush fell over the assembled pack, as if nature itself had paused to listen. In that sacred silence, her voice, soft yet powerful, resonated like a hymn from the heavens. "I am Selen, guardian of the moon's light and keeper of ancient truths," she proclaimed, her tone both gentle and commanding. "Your struggles have echoed through the ages, and now the time has come for change." Her words, imbued with mystical reverence, sent ripples through the hearts of all present. With deliberate, measured gestures, Selene began to outline her cryptic warnings. She spoke of a dark tide that threatened not only the pack, but the very balance of nature, a force born of hatred and fear that sought to unravel the bonds of kinship. "The night is long and fraught with peril," she intoned, "and the Yar, shadows that dwell within it, are more than mere absence of light. They are a test of your spirit and unity." Her warning was both a call to vigilance and a reminder of the fragile nature of their existence. As she continued, her tone softened, and the air around her seemed to shimmer with an energy that was both healing and transformative. "Yet, amid the darkness, I bring you a gift, a rare and extraordinary blessing bestowed upon one who dares to carry the light of life within his soul." All eyes turned toward our protagonist, whose heart pounded with a mix of awe and trepidation. With a graceful motion, Selene reached out a delicate hand and touched his forehead. In that instant, a surge of radiant energy flowed into him, filling him with warmth and a profound sense of renewal. The gift was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a luminous power that coursed through his veins, igniting a dormant force. within. Selen's words echoed in his mind. You are now the first among your kind, a male werewolf imbued with the power to give life. The revelation was both astonishing and humbling. It was as if destiny had chosen him to break a cycle of destruction and despair, to become a beacon of hope in a world that had long been shrouded in darkness. For a long moment, he stood transfixed, feeling the raw intensity of this newfound power. The sensation was overwhelming, a mingling of light and heat that seemed to melt away the remnants of pain and isolation. His senses were heightened to an almost mystical degree. He could feel the pulse of the earth beneath him, the gentle rustle of leaves as if whispering secrets of the ancient world, and the soft hum of the universe that vibrated in perfect harmony with his own heartbeat. Selen's intervention, however, came with its own set of challenges and enigmatic conditions. This gift is a double-edged blade, she warned solemnly. It carries with it great potential for healing and creation, but it also demands a burden of responsibility. The power to give life is not to be wielded lightly. It must be nurtured with wisdom, compassion, and unwavering dedication to the preservation of all that is sacred. Her gaze, both piercing and tender, seemed to measure his resolve. Will you accept this charge, knowing that your actions may one day determine the fate of not just your pack, but of all those who dwell in the light and shadows of this world? The weight of her words settled over him like a cloak of destiny. He felt a profound stirring within, a call to rise above his past struggles and to embrace the mantle of a protector, a healer, and a leader. In that pivotal moment, the boundaries between the human and the supernatural blurred, and he understood that his journey was about to take on a significance far beyond his personal pain. As Selen began to fade back into the silvery night, her final words lingered in the charged air, echoing as both a benediction and a prophecy. What destiny awaits when the power of life is unlocked? The question resonated deeply, stirring a tumult of emotions within him, a blend of hope, fear, and an unyielding determination to fulfill the promise bestowed upon him. In the silence that followed, the moon continued its celestial vigil as, if guarding the secret paths of fate that lay ahead for him and his kind. A new beginning. Embracing love, power, and destiny. In the soft glow of a new dawn, the air felt charged with promise. The tumult of battles and the weight of past sorrows had given way to a serene quiet, a moment where the scars of yesterday melded with the hopes of tomorrow. Standing at the threshold of this fresh start, our protagonist felt, for the first time in a long while, a deep sense of belonging. The journey toward self-acceptance had not been easy, but every hardship had paved the way for a transformation, fueled by love and newfound power. The experiences of recent days, the fierce protectiveness during battles, the tender moments of shared vulnerability, and even the mystical intervention of the moon goddess, had all converged to reshape his inner world. He had learned that true strength was not measured by the absence of pain, but by the courage to heal and grow from it. In embracing his dual nature as both human and werewolf, he discovered that his legacy was not defined by the cruelty he'd once endured, but by the power of compassion and the resilience of his spirit. Now, as the first light of dawn filtered through the windows of the pack house, the once turbulent atmosphere had softened into a peaceful calm. His pack gathered around him, each member a living testament to the unity and shared strength that had carried them through the darkest of nights. Their quiet support, woven through moments of laughter and sorrow alike, had taught him that he was never truly alone. It was in the gentle words of encouragement, the steadfast presence of his allies, and the tender understanding in Calvin's eyes that he found his truest form of protection. In the days that followed, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Routine, once a reminder of his painful past, transformed into a comforting cadence that embraced both love and duty. Every morning, as he rose with the sun, he felt the pulse of the earth beneath him and the familiar call of the wild. A reminder, of the extraordinary power that now flowed through his veins. The energy of his transformation had not faded. Instead, it intertwined with the healing of his heart, forming a harmonious blend of primal strength and gentle affection. It was during one of these reflective mornings that an unexpected, joyous miracle unfolded, a symbol of renewal and hope. In the quiet intimacy of a crisp, clear day, his beloved mate and he embraced the fullness of their shared journey. Their love, forged through trials and nurtured by the kindness they had found in one another, had blossomed into something far greater than either had dared to dream. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged with a promise of light. Soon, the quiet joy of that bond manifested in an even more profound way. In a tender, intimate moment, filled with both wonder and deep emotion, he learned that their love had sparked the creation of new life, the realization that he was to become a parent, a bearer of hope and the living legacy of his kind, filled him with an overwhelming sense of purpose. It was as if every hardship he had endured, every battle fought in the name of love and protection, had culminated in this singular, transformative moment. As the days passed and the time for the child's arrival approached, the atmosphere in the pack house was imbued with a contagious excitement. The healing energies that had flowed through every member of the pack now converged in a celebration of life. The anticipation was palpable. Every shared glance and gentle touch carried a silent promise that the future held limitless potential. In the quiet hours before dawn on the day of the birth, the pack gathered around, their faces illuminated by the soft light and the radiant hope that shone in their eyes. When the new life finally emerged, a beautiful, fragile child whose presence seemed to fill the room with a gentle warmth, tears of joy mingled with relieved laughter. In that moment, all the pain, all the darkness, melted away in the light of a new chapter. Here, in the soft glow of that early morning, the legacy of love, strength, and resilience was reborn. The child was more than just a symbol of their survival. It was a beacon of the future, a reminder that every scar and every struggle had been a stepping stone toward this powerful new beginning. Standing amidst the quiet celebration, he felt the weight of destiny settle softly upon his shoulders. With a heart brimming with gratitude and hope, he gazed upon the tiny life before him, a life destined to carry forward the legacy of those who had come before. In that gentle moment of awe and promise, a single profound thought echoed in his mind, inviting both him and the audience to ponder. Is this just the beginning of a powerful new legacy,